Good morning. Well, it's the month of Thanksgiving, and I'll bet a lot of you at some point have thought about or are going to think about the American Pilgrims and their inauguration of the American holiday of Thanksgiving. But did you know that, in fact, the Harvest Festival is one of the oldest and most widespread festivals in the world? Did you all know that? I didn't. Our American Thanksgiving is a form of that harvest festival, which is probably as old as man's use of agriculture. And did you know that in the various festivals, among all of them celebrated throughout the world in ancient and modern times, that there seems to be one common denominator, which is the element of joy and reverence. Joy and reverence. In fact, the word festival comes from the Latin word which means joy. The festival always contains joy and reverence because a festival is the celebration of that which is sacred, truly sacred in our lives. Primitive man considered the forces of nature as sacred because, of course, his very survival depended on nature. For this reason, many festivals are linked to the different cycles and seasons of nature. For example, did you know that the Virgin Islands observe a Thanksgiving Day on October 25th? Can anyone guess why the Virgin Islands celebrate Thanksgiving on October 25th? Take a guess. You're all are living in New Orleans. Yes, Ernest, it's the end of hurricane season. I'm sure we can all relate to that. When man began to cultivate the earth and to develop agriculture, the Harvest Festival became a very important celebration. As civilizations became more complex, more sacred festivals appeared, often based on a particular person. For example, Jesus' birth, Jesus' crucifixion, Passover for the Jews, the Buddhist festival of enlightenment for Buddha, etc. With all these festivals, joy and reverence are a common theme. Now, I'd like to share with you today a process by which you can experience your own private harvest festival, one that is uniquely tailored to your needs and your interests wherever you are on the spiritual path. Begin by asking yourself right now, what is sacred in my life? Think about it. What is really sacred in your life? What is so important that your very survival depends on it? Now, let's use the word survival to include not only your physical survival, but also your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual survival. In other words, what is so important to you that it is absolutely critical to your well-being? Think about that a minute. Let's identify those on each level: physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. Be thinking about that. For example, on the physical level, you might say that you have health and material needs that you consider necessary for your well-being: food, water, air, exercise, shelter, clothing, transportation even. Think for a moment about what is essential to you in your physical domain. Okay, everybody thought of something? Several things? Okay, now let's go to the emotional level. You might say that love and a sense of belonging are necessary for you. You might even get more specific and say romantic love, love from your family and friends is essential for you. Maybe peace is sacred to you, a lack of stress. Think for a moment about what is really sacred to you on the emotional level. Now, at the mental level, you may feel like learning, or for some of you, creating, writing a book, expressing thoughts is essential to your well-being. Identify what is essential to you in order for you to experience a true sense of well-being on the mental level. Maybe reading or taking classes, watching educational programs on YouTube or television. What is really sacred to you on the mental level? Think about that. Now, spiritually, what is necessary for your well-being? What spiritual nourishment is vital to you? We say every time we come together, the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. Our daily bread isn't just physical nourishment. It's all that is vital to us spiritually. What spiritual activity is essential for you? Is it having a church to go to, or people to worship with, or learn with, or take classes with? Is it having a teacher to guide you and to remind you of the spiritual path? Is it meditation? Is it prayer? What is truly essential to you spiritually? Okay, you have now defined what is sacred to your life, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Think about these things, maybe 10 of them total. I'm sure we all have at least 10. And be aware that, of course, these items will change from time to time. You have to update your list. Now, let's begin your personal harvest festival by appreciating and then giving thanks for these sacred things that you have identified in your life. Now, to appreciate means to value, to hold in high regard. The act of reverence is one where we deeply appreciate the value of someone or something. Honor that which is sacred in your life. Give thanks for it. Bless it. The first step in creating your harvest festival is to identify and then appreciate and then give thanks for what you consider to be good and beautiful and essential in your life. The second step is to go beyond the physical form of the sacred and identify the source. If health and prosperity are sacred to you, then identify the source, the origin of this health and prosperity. If love and harmonious relationships are sacred to you, identify the source of this love and harmony. Now, we may blithely say that God is the source of all our good, and this is certainly true. Feel that truth, though. It doesn't mean much to you to just blithely say God is the source of everything unless we can fully feel that truth within us. Feel it. Now, the third step to celebrating your harvest festival is to ask God to show you how to manifest these qualities more fully in your life. Ask God to direct you in ways that will bring about real, tangible experiences of these sacred qualities. For example, after you experience a deep sense of life, vitality, and well-being, ask God to show you ways that you can manifest this love and peace and health and whatever qualities you're working with, and be thankful for them. This harvest festival process can be a personal, individual experience, of course, but it can also be a shared experience. What a joyful celebration it would be this year to come together with friends and family and to share what is really sacred in your life, not just have turkey. Just celebrate all the good that is in your life. That would indeed be a true Thanksgiving experience. It's putting the meaning back into Thanksgiving and making it a true harvest festival, a true Thanksgiving. It's creating an attitude of gratitude that will keep on giving because it will attract that energy to you. Then you become bathed in this prosperity, and you can give thanks for it and then attract more and more. That's the way it works. So the more you attract, the more you have then to give to others, the more peace and love and prosperity to give to others, and that heals us. As I was writing this truth lesson, actually I was finishing it up yesterday, and a childhood friend of mine called and asked what I was doing. I usually don't answer the phone on Saturdays till I've run it off. But I told her, finishing my truth lesson, that's what I was doing. She asked, well, what was the subject? I said, well, basically developing an attitude of gratitude. She then asked me to share her testimonial about gratitude. I told her I would, so I will. Now, my friend Judy has a PhD in psychology, so she's aware of the workings of the mind. But she told me that at one point in her life, she was extremely depressed. Despite her doctoral degree in psychology, she just couldn't lick it. Then she met someone who told her to spend 30 minutes every morning thinking of all the things that she had to be thankful for. Hardly a new idea, I know. Actually, there are very few new ideas. But Judy actually did the practice, 30 minutes every single morning. That's what's new, is when we do the things that we know already. She said that her depression started diminishing, and that the more she thought about all that she had to be grateful for, the more her depression just went away, that she had suffered from for years. She told me that she has no depression now, and she had it for decades. And she isn't on Prozac or any antidepressants, she said to tell you. The simple technique and spending 30 minutes a day being grateful for all the things in her life cured her. She said, I am cured. Tell them. Her attitude of gratitude cured her depression. Your private harvest festival can create in you a reservoir of gratitude which will change your consciousness from one which is always seeking more and seeking something that it doesn't have and feeling unsatisfied to one of feeling gratitude for all that you do have. Now, I'd also like to address the question that might arise in regard to things that appear negative. I can kind of see those wheels turning in some people's minds out there. There are some painful things that happen. What about them? How are we to think about those things, which may seem anything but sacred to us? Hurricane Ida's destruction, COVID problems of all kinds, the disunity in our country, and our personal struggles that we all have, disappointments. The answer lies in a statement once made by Ken Keyes in his book, Handbook to Higher Consciousness, which I know many of you have read. Keyes said, everything comes to us for our enjoyment or our growth. Our enjoyment or our growth. Ram Dass said, everything is grist for the mill. And remember, the Chinese symbol for tragedy, I believe it is, huh, Lucas, is also the symbol for opportunity. And I came to Unity this morning and picked up a new book out there on the bookshelf, and this just dropped out of it. It says, seek to cultivate a condition where you are no longer frightened by the complexity of life, but indeed are thrilled by the challenge of trying to truly understand it. Crisis. Thank you, Lucas. I was looking at you over here. Okay. Thank you. If there is something in your life that seems painful, a crisis, then think about the possibility that this issue or this crisis or problem can be used as your teacher. No outer force sent the problem to you. I am not saying that. But once life does happen and the issue is there, it can be used for your growth. Few of us are willing to be thankful for pain, but we can be thankful for the growth that can come from this painful situation. As we focus on the growth and learning that are inherent in any problem we encounter, rather than focusing on the pain, we immediately start healing the situation. Think about it for just a moment. Think of a situation in your life that is painful right now. Think about it. I didn't put very many dots down here because I didn't think I had to pause for very long for you to think of something. Look at that problem from all sides. Is it producing physical anguish, emotional suffering, mental problems, spiritual issues? How is this situation painful to you? Take a moment to identify this situation in your life. Okay. Is it possible that feeling less than, maybe, many people have that problem, in some way can help you develop humility and compassion toward others, which ultimately will create a better life for you? Might your struggle with alcohol or drugs, cigarettes, food, whatever, help you feel more a part of the family of mankind, which will ultimately fulfill many of your needs? Is it possible that your loss of a loved one or of your financial security might help you become a more loving and understanding person toward others who are enduring the same loss that you couldn't understand before? Think about how past tragedies, I'm sure you all can think of some, how past tragedies might have helped you develop into a softer, kinder, gentler human being, which in the long run helped you be a more devoted, loving friend and citizen of planet Earth. Many of my seeming problems catapulted me onward on my spiritual path. I considered it, for example, a tragedy, probably the biggest tragedy of my life, that I lost my faith in God during college. Gone. My whole life growing up in Shreveport had been about church and my spiritual life. I was the one out of 900 in my graduating class from Byrd High School who was chosen to say the prayer at graduation. My father was raised in unity. My mother's father was a 33-degree Mason. My whole raison d'etre was my spiritual life. I wanted to be an Episcopalian nun. I'd gone to Nassau and seen they had them, and I wanted to be one. But then in college, my intellect met up with some people and ideas that wiped out my faith. I even remember my last prayer. Dear God, I'm sorry, but my intellect can no longer believe in you, so don't be expecting any more prayers. Let me know if I'm wrong, but till then, over and out. I swear that was my prayer. I was devastated, lost, and unhappy. It was a tragedy to have the rug pulled out from under me like that. I certainly was not grateful for my doubts then. My life changed tracks, and I didn't know where the train was going, but I certainly wasn't grateful for the tragedy. But the point is that my tragedy turned out to be a huge blessing. I threw myself into my studies, and my interest in French literature, Lindia, led me to the East, one of my professors, when we said at the end of the year, where is modern thought going? And he said, it's going to the east. I had no idea what he was talking about. Hinduism, Buddhism, Vedanta, this path led me to a much, much deeper, more profound understanding of God and spirituality than my fundamentalist upbringing could ever have revealed in the Episcopal Church. I began to understand Christianity for the first time. I started understanding all religions. I understood what Charles Fillmore was talking about, co-founder of Unity. I finally realized that I hadn't lost faith in God, I'd lost faith in my old concept of God. This all ultimately led me to Unity, to Buddhist psychotherapy, and to a much older, richer, more profound understanding of spirituality. I got Charles Fillmore, one that has really been the joy of my life. My tragedy led me on a lifelong search around the world. As a result, I've spent my life doing what I absolutely love, teaching and getting paid to discuss these ideas about French literature and philosophy in classes. Like my dad said, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life, and I haven't worked a day in my life. Believe me, losing my faith was a tragedy from which I thought I would never recover. But this tragedy led me to something great, a happy, fulfilling life, and a never-ending search for truth. Example 2, Bob Tucker, I know you'll appreciate this. I remember being too scared at one point to go to my best friend's house because she had just bought a Doberman Pinscher. I was terrified of that big, black, pointy-eared, sharp-toothed dog. Her getting that dog was a tragedy to me. Then she called me one day and asked me to keep that Doberman, Yuri, for a couple of weeks because she had to go into surgery. That was a bigger tragedy. Yuri was a huge 9-month-old motion machine that ate my shoes, my furniture, and my rugs. And my friend Cheryl never came back to get that dog. Her husband got transferred to London, and they couldn't take the dog. By that time, 6 weeks later, though, I had gotten attached to Yuri, so I kept him. And that Doberman started a 30-year career in Doberman rescue that has brought me unimaginable love, fun, friends, and fulfillment into my life. Not to mention a lot of security. I'm sure you all have similar experiences of things you thought were hindrances or crises or tragedies that turned out to be blessings. Think back on your life. What seeming bad things have turned out to be growth experiences or even joyful for you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? The point of all this is to start you thinking during this month of Thanksgiving about your harvest festival. What are you thankful for? Even things that seemed like problems at one time. None of this is new material. Most of it is actually 8,000 years old. What is new is putting it into practice. Katrina and I can't tell you anything new. No one can. Maybe there's nothing new under the sun. But we try to remind you of what's important, and we hope that you will incorporate these things, this age-old wisdom, into your life. So today, start thinking about all that you have to be thankful for. A roof over your head, a refrigerator. Remember Katrina? Hurricane Katrina. electricity to run the air conditioning, remember Ida, good food, hot showers, good health, family, friends, pets, Dobermans, good books, and all the knowledge of the world available with a click of the computer. I used to have to go all over the world to find libraries to find the knowledge I needed. It's all just right there now. Even the COVID epidemic has created some good that we couldn't even have imagined before. Zoom study groups and conferences and the possibility of work from home has changed life for millions for the better. I'm not saying that COVID or any tragedy is good. Far from it. But I am saying that there is often a silver lining that can come out of anything if we open our hearts and open our minds. So let's do more this month than just think about gratitude and turkeys. Let's consider our own harvest festival as a spiritual practice and then do it. An attitude of gratitude is an integral part of the spiritual path. It helps us develop our consciousness in a whole new way. It can help us start seeing, as Ken Keyes says, that everything in the world is there for our enjoyment or as a possibility for our growth. It's all a matter of our consciousness, our attitude, how we interpret everything. So start now preparing for your harvest festival this month. Let this be the year when you really change your consciousness from feelings of lack, which attracts lack, to an attitude of gratitude, which attracts abundance and prosperity of all kinds. It's your potential, it's your birthright, and it's what you all certainly deserve.